Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba. All right. Promoter 101. 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 Promoter 101.
Hey, it's Bob Lefsetz. I write the Lefsetz Letter, a newsletter about the music business, music, and a little bit of my own life. I'm here doing Steiny's podcast, Promoter 101.
Happy episode 185 of the Promoter 101 podcast. Please meet my very good friend from APA, the agent known as Craigie Fresh, the one, the only, the lovable and adorable Craig Newman, our co-host this week. Welcome, Craig.
Steiny, as always, a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. Today on the Promoter 101 podcast, we feature Jane's Addiction's Dave Navarro and Billy Idol's Billy Morrison talking about how they discovered music and what they are doing together to look out for their own, with a very special event coming up this Monday, September 16th in LA at the Fonda Theater.
Now, this is a very special podcast because we don't normally invite artists on our platform. It's always the guys behind the guys, so to speak. But this is a very special topic that they're talking about, and I think it's a very special message that we all need to get behind and really hear their side of, as they're on the front lines of some of the mental health issues going on in our industry, and I think they see it best, and to hear it from their voices, really, there's not a better place to get it. So, very special episode. One of the first times we've had artists on the podcast. I'm really going to celebrate this today. Plus, we have a very special war story with Degy's Josh Sherman. You know the Shermanator, don't you, Craigie?
Sherman and I go way back. Take off your pants, Sherm. We love this guy. He's a stud. He's a star. Big fan.
I don't know that anybody brings the karaoke 80s hip-hop the way Josh Sherman does. He's an icon.
And speaking of karaoke, episode 185 starts right now.
We are thrilled to announce that Promoter 101 has teamed up with the Recording Academy's Music Cares Foundation to do a little good. And you, our beloved listeners, can help. By going to Promoter101.net and clicking the merch tab at the top of the page, you can pick up a stylish, limited edition Promoter 101 Call Ya Mother t-shirt or hoodie in a huge variety of styles and colors. 100% of proceeds goes directly to Music Cares and their mission to provide a safety net of critical assistance for music people in their time of need. Shipping and handling is absolutely free, and for the first $10,000 we raise, our good friends at Prism are matching donations dollar for dollar. Go to Promoter101.net right now, click on the merch tab, pick out one of our awesome shirts, and be the heart and soul of the music community by donating to Music Cares. And don't forget to call your mother.
As we've talked about before, you might know the podcast is sadly quickly coming to an end, Craig. But we've got some great news. We're ready to announce the unveiling of our very final guest on the podcast ever. We're going to be live at the APA conference. That's in Nashville, Tennessee at the APA conference for the very final interview.
Dan, this final interview and live podcast recording from APA is going to be at this year's keynote session. Unbelievably special. It takes place on October 27th at 2 p.m. at the JW Marriott in Nashville. The entire Promoter 101 team looks forward to wrapping this up with many of our close friends in attendance. It's going to be a special podcast, and we are working to ensure that it will be our absolute best yet.
So let's do it. We're going to go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off and make this announcement. Are you ready, Craig?
Let's do it.
Our final guest on the podcast, live at APA, one of the most influential executives in touring today, the Senior Vice President of Global Touring at AEG Presents, Deborah Rathwell. Boom.
Whoa, mama. That is as big as it gets.
Can't ask for any more than that. What a brilliant mind. I can't wait to hear what she's going to unleash on us right there in Nashville, Tennessee at the APA conference.
Daniel Glick. I work for Evenco on Promoter 101.
Have you missed any of the past Promoter 101 episodes? Well, do we have a deal for you? That's right, we've saved them all at promoter101.net, and you can just go to that computer device of yours and dish up any episode you like. This week, we think episode 107 might catch your eye.
It features AEG Golden Voice's Susan Rosenbluth talking about her amazing career in the LA market.
Plus, Chris Porter is going to share a tale of his time in Boston, Seattle, and now working on the coolest event in the world, Hardly Strictly Bluegrass.
Paradigm's Trey Many turns the tables on Emporium's Steiny Steinberg.
So, hey, if you've got a minute and you want to drop us a review or subscribe to the Promoter 101 podcast, or just tell a friend, we'd really appreciate it.
This is Alex Hodges with Nederlander Concerts, and I'm here with Promoter 101.
News of the week.
Luke, what's going on in the news?
It's time for News of the Week. Here in Music City, the Americana Music Association kicked off its annual conference this past Wednesday night with the 18th Annual Americana Honors and Awards at the historic Ryman Auditorium. The event, which best reflects Grammy voter tastes in this genre, was hosted by Milk Carton Kids. Brandi Carlile took home the coveted Artist of the Year award, besting the rest of the nominees in an all-female category. The War and Treaty took home their Emerging Artist Award. I'm With Her, the Sarah Watkins, Sarah Jarosz, and Ophi O'Donovan supergroup took home the Best Duo/Group. John Prine, also a winner, of course, in the genre this evening, as he took home the Album of the Year award for his Dave Cobb-produced Tree of Forgiveness, as well as Song of the Year for Summer's End, which he co-wrote with Pat McLaughlin. NBC has renewed the hit songwriting competition series Songland for a second season. The show averaged a 1.1 rating with 5.1 million viewers in the live plus 7-day Nielsen ratings. The renewal is a win for BMG, who partnered on recording and publishing contracts to release songs written and recorded by show contestants. It's also a win for show producer mentors Ryan Tedder, Esther Dean, and Shane McAnally. Synergy Global Entertainment announced its filings for bankruptcy and shuttering, claiming it owed more than $8.4 million to creditors that included WME, Paradigm, and Able Management. SGE formed 15 years ago and became one of the largest festival promoters in America, with more than 30 events scheduled in 2019 and a forecast of ticket sales for 2019 in the range of 1.75 to 2.25 million tickets. Back in July, SGE pulled the Foxborough, Massachusetts-based Mad Decent Festival and said it would be reorganizing its operation and assessing strategic options. SGE founder John Reese told Polestar, after 15 years as a successful festival promoter, SGE was hit by a perfect storm of adverse market conditions and a massive drop in sales and revenue per ticket since late April of this year compared to historical ticket sales metrics. As a result of these issues, the negative economic impact for SGE became untenable. That'll do it for News of the Week.
Hi, this is Ed McBool, Melvin Ben,
Peter Aiken,
Alex Bewley,
Pino Sayoko,
Ben Chalice, Carl Leighton Pope,
Herman Sherman,
Charles Attell,
Lucy Dickens,
Josh Javor, Matt Sorensen,
and I'm on Promoter 101.
Up next, we have a new war story with Degy Bookings, Josh, the Shermanator Sherman.
It's that time for War Stories with your friend Josh Sherman of Degy Entertainment. Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
What do you got for us?
All right, so as you may or may not be aware, my wife, Sarah Beasley, is the Vice President of Programming and Production at Wolf Trap. So about 3 years ago, they had the I Love the 90s tour that blew through, which had like Salt and Pepper. It was Rob Bass. It was Coolio. It was All for One. It was Color Me Bad. It was Tone Loc. And then the point of the story.
Before we go there, anyone that knows you, anyone that's ever been to any of the arts conferences knows that if you're going to be singing karaoke, you're going to be doing some fucking great hip hop.
And that is exactly what happened, because I got to meet an absolute hero who was the first band on that bill, and it was Young MC. So the go-to, as you know, or as a lot of you unfortunately or fortunately know, Young MC's Bust a Move has been my go-to for 2 decades of doing it at karaoke at conferences.
I think if you search the internet, there is video of you and me as your hype man in, I think, Austin.
You were my hype man. That's right.
Austin.
That's right. That was on the roof of Austin in Austin on like what's on like 5th Street or whatever.
Yeah,
on that karaoke rooftop thing when I was bouncing around. Yeah, that's right. That was
great.
It was wild. So anyway, so Sarah gets me to meet Young MC, which of course is just like blowing my freaking mind that like I'm gonna like talk to this guy, and I'm like, and so we're chatting a little bit, and I was like, listen, man, I just want to thank you. You've literally made me 100 friends because I do karaoke to your jam like at all of these conferences, and I met all of these people this way by doing that. So thank you so much.
And he thanked you for keeping him relevant?
I don't know about that. I mean, that song's been pervasive lately, so I've had to kind of back burner it a little bit. But like, here's the cool part. So we're talking about it, and he's like, "Yeah, man, there's a fifth verse that like nobody knows about."
Did he drop it on you?
And I was like, "What do you mean? There's like a fifth verse? What are you talking about? Like, like this song is like ingrained in my
You've got
DNA."
The lost verse,
right?
Was it only on Laserdisc?
No.
The callback. Boom.
So like. Special edition bust a move. But so here's the thing, dude.
It's like the lost scene from Air Up There.
Yeah, right. From Air Bud 5. So he's like, yeah, there's this fifth verse, and he like just spits it out. And I don't remember a thing of it because my mind is just completely blown. But like how insane this is that he's like got this mystery fifth verse, right? But he's the first one on the bill for the I Love the 90s bill. So like I'm like, thank him, I get a picture or whatever, and I go sit, and Sarah's got me in a great seat, and like he comes out and he does 2 other songs, and then he goes into Bust a Move, right? And like he gets into the fifth verse, and he points at me. He points at me in the audience, and I'm just like, oh my God. Like, no, it can't be really him. He's not looking at me. And then he did it a second time, and then he put up his hands with a 5. And I'm like, he's doing the mystery fifth verse just for me. Oh my God, this is so awesome. So yeah, that was pretty.
So he laid it down live.
He did, and then he gave me a big 5 from the stage. I don't know. I mean, little thrills, but it was fun. It was fun. It was cool to get that vibe, man.
So what I like about Wolf Trap is it's the place where Sting will do 3 nights, and then it's the place where somehow programming will allow Sarah Beasley to book in Young MC.
The thing about Wolf Trap, and this is absolutely true, is that every single year, it has gotten more and more impressive with the acts that they have. They've really upped their game. It's a wonderful environment to go see a show. It's the only performing arts center that's part of a national park. I mean, that's it. It's the only one. It's easy to get to. And, considering how hard it is to get some of the other locations in the DC area, it's dope. It's awesome. You can bring your own food. You can bring your own alcohol into the center, like full bottles, as long as they're like not open, and just sit out there on the lawn and just like have a wonderful, wonderful summer night. It's awesome. It's a great place to see a show.
Well, I'm sold. They ought to put you on the payroll.
When are you going to come down? When are you going to come to see it? Where were you last night, man? Lenny Kravitz.
We don't ever go to the same place on purpose.
That's true. It's true.
It's got to just happen because we don't want to mess with the karmic god.
That's true. It's only got to be by accident. You're right.
Totally.
Let's never plan anything again.
Josh Sherman right here on Promoter 101 with the great Young MC story.
Bust the move.
Mr. Sherman is a solid bro, always entertaining, always leaving the audience wanting more. He's a fan favorite here at Promoter 101.
This is Marcia Vlasic, president of AGI Talent Agency on Promoter 101.
Promoter 101 Flashbacks.
Episode 55. Bob Rue.
Mark and I grew up in that era of, local promoters had geographical territories. We had an amazing group of promoters throughout the United States, which has expanded significantly over the last 7 years. But we wanted to basically make sure that they were empowered to do what they've learned to do throughout their careers, is just get up every day, acquire talent, promote really hard, be experts at marketing in their local market. But we also saw some of the benefits of centralization in talent acquisition. A lot of artists and managers were looking for one-stop solutions, for a group of individuals that they can come together with and execute their plan. And so instead of having a lot of individual conversations across the United States, they could meet with one group, talk about the entire tour, how they wanted to lay that out, what combination of venues, the marketing strategy, make a singular financial deal, and then let us orchestrate that out with local level execution. And really, it's kind of the best of both worlds. Centralization on the acquisition and some marketing assets, but also decentralized in the fact that we have experts now in 25 cities across the U.S.
How many venues and how many tours are you guys running right now?
Without the theater and clubs, because I apologize, I don't really know Ron's numbers on the number of theaters and clubs that we have here in the U.S., but we operate right now, I think, 53 amphitheaters across the U.S., and we have 25 of those promoter offices or promoter pods. Most major cities are represented by that, and each have a geographical territory with a cluster of assets that they're responsible for.
So how many tours are you running around the U.S. now?
This year, U.S. concerts, we'll do about 120, I think.
Are you coordinating that with Canada pretty closely?
Yeah, so we book for Canada too. The 23, 25 local promoter offices are all U.S., and then we have offices in Vancouver, Toronto. There may be a third. And when we buy a tour for U.S., it's typically U.S. and Canada, and now we're starting to expand and buy more globally when we have a relationship with acts like U2 and others, where they recognize Live Nation's presence throughout the world. This year we will do shows in 43 countries around the world, sell approximately 80 million tickets. So
globally,
we're taking a lot of what we've built up in the United States, and through our acquisition and other opportunities, have been able to spread that same kind of business plan globally now.
Hey, we're home free, and we're on Promoter 101. Tweets of the week.
Man, I hope you're ready, because you know what time it is? It's time for Tweets of the Week, when an agent asks for holds and offers that he has had for weeks.
Hey, man, check your inbox, friend.
When an email subject line has the word urgent in all caps, and the message is, well, average and pretty unexciting information.
So much for urgent, eh?
Hey, listen, if all else fails, do what I do. Try for good old-fashioned Jewish guilt.
Thank you, Grandma. It's been working for our people for thousands of years, Craigie Fresh.
That'll just about do it for Tweets of the Week. You can follow on Twitter @TheJew.
This is Brian Hill from CAA in Nashville, and against my mother's wishes, I'm in Dan Steinberg's hotel room doing the Promoter 101 podcast.
In our feature interview, we focus on icon musicians, rock and roll legends, Dave Navarro and Billy Morrison. Dave and Billy will be talking about how they discovered music and what they are doing together to look out for their own. This is going to be an incredible, incredible feature story.
We are hanging out in Hollywood, and this is a special episode because we always focus on the guys behind the guys, but also we're hanging out Dave Navarro's house and Billy Morrison. We got real fucking rock stars on the podcast. Welcome, guys.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I just welcomed you to your own house. This is quite the museum you got going.
Thank you. So when you say the guys behind the guys, are you talking about the industry management world, or are you talking about
promoters, agents, publicists? I think you guys will find this interesting. You will be the first performers in the history of our 3 years on the podcast to be on the show.
Thanks for having us.
All right, well, let's do a little history, and then we'll get into whatever we decide to get into.
History, yes, you got it.
How did you guys find your way to music?
It found me when I was a child. I was going through some pretty tough personal stuff, and for one reason or another, walked into a record store. My cousin worked at Tower Records on Sunset in Hollywood. So I went in there. I must have been 7 or 8 years old, and I just gravitated towards Led Zeppelin. For some reason, my first album I bought was Led Zeppelin 4. And I put that on, and I was
That was your first album?
Yeah, and I was just in. Like, I'd never heard anything like it. I don't know what drew me to it. It's certainly not a compelling album cover for a 7-year-old. You know what I mean? In hindsight, it's a compelling album cover, but it wasn't all the bells and whistles you would think. But I was drawn to it. And then from there, I went into a deep love of Pink Floyd and The Who, and in particular, their ability to tell story, such as works like The Wall or such like Tommy. And Tommy was a story I identified with because it was about a kid who lost a parent and dealing with that trauma and shutting down emotionally so he can't see, he can't hear, he can't speak. That is just a metaphor for a child in crisis. And so that film shook my life. And the combination of all those things led me to this path. And I really never looked back, nor did I ever have an escape hatch. This was it and no other option.
What about you, Billy?
It's a similar story, but a slightly different emotion. I obviously was a really angry kid and frustrated, and mine was the Sex Pistols. I stumbled across that. It was a television appearance, a very famous television appearance that they made. And I watched the reaction of both my parents and all my friends' parents. And I remember taking a step back and going, oh, that's what you need to do to get noticed and to be your own voice in this world. Because up until that point, I'd felt stifled, put down, not good enough, all the rest of it. And I saw the Pistols come on, who couldn't, quite frankly, play very well at the time. And the whole world was going, oh my God. And the noise that they made, I just gravitated towards that. And so it's the same that Dave had with Led Zeppelin. I'd just never seen or heard anything like it. And Never Mind the Bollocks was my first. And still to this day, I have great arguments as to why that's one of the greatest rock and roll records ever.
Oh, I agree with that. But what's interesting, and even though Billy's coming from a different place of why he was drawn to music, if you really fundamentally think about it, we were both children who were dealing with issues that were social issues, maybe mental issues, maybe familial issues, but there was an isolation that we both felt, and whatever way that manifested itself within one another, we chose the same route. Maybe we chose different bands, but we chose the same route to feel comforted and whole. And I think that's why music has been so important for us.
It became, I think it was, like Dave said, same route, same solution. Music was a solution to me. It was a solution for so many internal emotions and feelings that I was having, and a solution to feeling like I didn't have any direction. I mean, even at 11 years old, I kind of knew what direction in life meant, and I definitely didn't have any. And music came along and went, okay, and I went, there's my direction.
That's exactly
Piss
what
everyone off, make a loud noise, have a voice. And that's all I needed.
That's really funny because I didn't have that reaction. Like, I found the music and I was like, okay, this is the direction. And I definitely made that the direction, music. And I didn't even entertain another direction. But at that time, I wasn't aware because, in the 70s, I wasn't aware of what a rock star is. I wasn't aware of fame. I wasn't aware of there being money or, access to women or any of the pitfalls that we talk about, even drug addiction. I wasn't really aware. All I knew was the music. For whatever reason, we chose music to be that element that enabled us to deal with our current situation. And I think that it's what keeps us in it.
I agree. I think we both had levels of emotional insecurity and instability that music put a Band-Aid on for me.
Okay, and how did instruments wind up in your guys' hand? What was the route for both of you?
My dad bought me an acoustic guitar at a garage sale for 50 cents.
That's so cool.
And I just saw
Tell me you still have it.
I wish to God I did.
Yeah, right?
I was a kid and I just looked at it and I said, all I knew was that was the thing that Jimi Hendrix was using. And so I was like, oh, I want one of those. And
how old were you?
I don't remember, maybe 9 or 10.
Okay, so 2-3 years after you bought that first album?
Yeah. And then as a result of being a skate kid in the West Side in LA, I ended up at skate parks, and that introduced me to things like, other music, because they'd be blaring it over the loudspeakers. So while I was, dipping into pools on skateboards, I was learning about Hendrix, I was learning about Pink Floyd, I was learning about all that kind of stuff that was kind of that 70s that was still hanging on to the 60s era, kind of mixed in with some 70s music, which was a little bit more polished than I liked. So, it was like I got that 60s vibe really resonated with me because it was expansive. It was explorational. It wasn't as cookie cutter as everything else, especially when I got into live recordings of Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix and Pink Floyd and learned about expanding sections and what jamming really is and making it up on the fly. And that was like my lesson, almost like if I was to take a jazz lesson from great jazz players. I took these lessons from great rock players that are essentially doing freeform jazz in a rock environment. So that's what resonated with me. And to utilize that to my guitar, I was able to put whatever emotional condition was happening into the notes I chose, into the way I strummed it, into how exaggerated or or withdrawn my playing is all relative to where I'm at on a given day.
I was really caught up in like I say, the anger of it. I was a fucked up child for some reason. And my first guitar was my parents bought me an electric guitar and a little amp. And I can remember, it was all in that same year. And I remember sitting in my bedroom figuring out, for some reason, my ears could hear what a chord was made up from. It was multiple notes. And I remember just putting my fingers on the fretboard until I played two notes that sounded the same as the Pistols album. And I learned power chords like that. It's like these three strings.
So you were trying to mimic it from the album?
I spent the first few years just mimicking those records. And
it's all trial and error.
That's all trial and error, yeah. And I would sit there because the harmonic resonance of a string is such that when you play a power chord, that's why it's called a power chord, because it makes this big fat noise. And I figured out power chords I figured out root notes first. I'm like, okay, so it goes here, and then I'm like, but there's more things being played.
See, and that's the thing. Billy was attracted to the power, which is why he is intolerable to work with. It's just power. He's got to run everything. Everything's his idea. Everything got to change it.
Well, I do love the common thread there that your parents both helped put the guitar in your hands for the first time.
I think my parents' motivation was to shut me up more than encourage the musical career.
Well, I mean, it was something I was interested in, preoccupied with. And, frankly, I was excelling at a very early age, and they had no reason not to be supportive of that.
Do you remember the moment where you realized that this could be more than just a hobby?
Well, I don't think that I ever had a moment where I just thought it was a hobby.
From the get-go, you thought this could be a career?
7 years old, this is what I do. At a certain age, it just becomes who you are. And then thinking about a career that wasn't even part of the conversation. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I do. I never had another job. I never did anything else. This is what I've done my whole life. And I think that Billy and I are lifers. And even if we got to do shady shit on the side along the way to make some money to support ourselves, which we both did, we got through it and we were determined and we manifested this life for ourselves. That's what we're talking about. And that's why we're here today, because we have a great event coming up that's all about manifesting a better life.
First of all, I didn't think I'd be alive at 21.
Career, yeah, right.
So the word career, it wasn't, I'm growing up, and my parents sat me down and we discussed, well, I'd like to be a rock star, Mum and Dad. Like, I just fell into this thing, and suddenly I'm in a transit van in Scotland with a bunch of other stoners playing songs that we've written, and there was no thought of career. And 30 years later, I guess you could call it a career, but I still don't look at it as a career. I look at it as a passion and I've been lucky enough, and a gift that I've been lucky enough to continue for over 30 years.
And here's the thing, like, I understand that you're used to talking to people on the inside of the industry and so forth and how they got this and what they did that. But this time you're talking to the artists, and this time it's not that cut and dry. We weren't drawn to something and wanted to make a buck off something. We didn't have any, at those ages, the idea of making a buck off what I'm doing, it wasn't even a concept.
No.
I got like fucking $3 allowance. You think I'm thinking career?
Well, no, but in the same sense that, what do you want to do when you grow up? I want to be a fireman.
You're speaking a conversation for what we think of as a regular family of, nuclear family, like, hey son, what do you want? I didn't come from that. I came from a broken family. I lived on the fucking streets. I lived in trailer parks. My mother was murdered when I was a child. I lost her. I had to deal with that tragedy. Like, I didn't come from, hey son, what do you want to be? I came from like, hey man, you better fucking gasp for air for as long as you can. That's what I came from. And that's why music was important to me. So career, fuck that. I wasn't thinking career. I was thinking about living. Son, what do you want to be when you grow up? That didn't happen.
Alive is what my answer was.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, there was no career.
I didn't realize that there were actually, because even when Jane's Addiction got going, we didn't think we were going to get signed. We didn't think we were going to be famous. We didn't think we were going to make money. It wasn't what it was about. It was about the art. It was about the passion. It was about the camaraderie, and luckily I found a bunch of guys that were really, really good, and they moved the needle for us. And, I went along for the ride. I'm one of the luckiest guys in the world to have done that, because I could have ended up in a number of different places that were not advantageous. So I owe the fact, if you want to speak about career, I owe the fact that I ended up in a room with those three guys is what gave me the career that I was never looking for.
That's very profound. You wound up, both of you, having your days and yet came through the other side. And now we're paying it forward because you got some help. And now you guys are together putting together this charity event. That's the second year, right? It's coming up. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. You know, Dave and I talk most days. He's one of my closest friends. And we literally started with one of those conversations where he called me up and went, you know what we should do? And those are always the best. You know what we should do? And anything that comes after that is normally fun. And
the last time I said that, I said we should put out a line of sinks that are fur lined.
Yeah, that was a success. That was
one use only, but they look great.
Look great.
But that he shot that down. So then I came back with this other. There we go.
Hard Rock Hotel in Vegas is ready to line up and buy those from you.
That's right. We sold 50 of them. That was basically, you know what we should do? Play vinyl records in their entirety. We both have a love of vinyl and the whole concept of telling a story. Side one, side two, you flip it over. The track listing is important. And at the same time, we were losing our real friends. Look, throughout the course of history, people have been dying from suicide, depression, mental health. And at the time that phone call happened, we'd both just been to Chester's funeral, Chester Bennington from Linkin Park, Chris Cornell. We'd lost Scott Weiland, and then the list just goes on. And it was one phone call where we were like, you know what? Musicaires, who are just beyond the most amazing organization, they're boots on the ground. Musicaires is a Grammy organization that funds and helps people get help immediately. And I'll tell you, I'm going to tell a quick story here of one of many personal actions that I've had with Musicaires. One of the drummers we had in Billy Idol, I'm going to be gentle with this story. Basically, I ended up sitting in a hotel room with him, having intervened in a really bad situation. And I called my contact at Musicaires from that hotel and said, listen, this dude's going to die if we don't get him into somewhere right now. And I meant that day. And they said, give me half an hour. And they called me back and they said, take him to this address. They funded his treatment. He didn't have any money. They funded his treatment, and now he's a successful drummer with another one of our friends with many years clean and sober. So Musicaires are an organization that will act boots on the ground, which is where we need it.
And then also, speaking of the losses that we've had, I mean, you brought up Chester, you brought up Scott, you brought up Chris, of course, and guys that we've known and grown up with and loved for years and worked with on many, many times. I mean, Chester and Scott were members of bands that Billy and I do. And so if you want to talk about the heart-wrenching nature of mental illness, think this. When we were putting together the list of singers who would be perfect to do David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust, and the Spiders of Mars, number one on that list is Chester Bennington, without a doubt. And he can't do it. Scott loved David Bowie. He can't do it. And these are guys who would kill it, you know? And so being in that awareness, that state of awareness about how the gravity of what we've got, and having been on the edge of suicide myself as close to maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, man, there's no better time to implement this kind of action than right now, because this is an issue that affects everybody and every family and every human being that's walking on this earth, whether they're a sufferer or not, because they interact with people who suffer. So the time to bring awareness is now, when our country is so seemingly divided. The one thing that we can all connect on is the fact that we're all frail, we're all human, we all have transgressions, we all have problems, and if we treat each other as such, maybe it'll change the tone within our society to one of caring. And that's all we're trying to do.
Well, clearly it's a good time to bring attention to it, just so people know that they're not alone with it. The name of the event's Above Ground. I assume there's some thought behind the meaning of that.
Well, above ground, I mean, Billy and I are from the underground. You think about the underground. We came up, Jane's Addiction came up in the gritty underground scene of Los Angeles, and Billy came up in the gritty Camden street gutter.
You should have said that in your English accent.
Gritty Camden street gutter.
Pretty good at that.
Urchin sort of row is doing it.
He thinks I'm a member of Charles Dickens' underground.
Oh, so fucking what? You fucking what, man? So he was he the same thing, man. He was doing the same shit. We were junkies. We were barely scrapping by, making fucking music, doing what we could. It was all about the art. That's all that mattered, man. We're lucky enough to be alive.
Yeah, we're trying to keep our friends and our peers and our family and our fans above ground.
Yeah, that's
we
exactly how
don't,
to answer your
we don't
question.
want our people below ground. I'm fed up with losing our people.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing we're fighting against was even now, the message is getting better. You have people like Bieber and Katy Perry talking about depression. But even now on a worldwide scale, if a kid says to their parents, I feel depressed, a lot of the times the answer is you need to get a hobby or throw him in the army. That'll sort him out. Depression and suicidal thoughts is still something that a lot of people think is not cool to talk about. And I can tell you, I spoke with Chester about a month before he died, and we were talking about depression, and he said, I don't understand how I can even feel depressed. What have I got to be depressed about? I'm one of the biggest rock stars in the world. I've got a loving, caring family. I have no financial troubles. My life is amazing. How can I be depressed? And what people are not understanding is that it's a mental illness. Of course he was depressed. Look what happened. And we need to try and let people know it doesn't matter what your life circumstances are. It's okay to ask for help.
And the way that, it's so great that you bring that up, because it's such a great example of the stigma and shame around mental health issues, because there is a lot of shame. A lot of people have whatever is going on in them. There's shame attached to it. Shame of being judged, shame of being not good enough, shamed of being different, shame of not fitting in, whatever it is. And that shame keeps people bound up with their trauma and their illness for long, long periods of time, to the point where it can be detrimental, right? So what we're saying is, hey man, I don't care if you're a number one superstar in the world. I don't care if you come from the street. I don't care if you're a rock star. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, or financially well off, or not so well off. Depression and mental illness touches all of us. You know what I mean? And that's the message we're getting out there. And the thing is, when we have warriors come back from Afghanistan and they are treated for PTSD because they've seen unthinkable, horrific events, and that PTSD needs treatment, these are heroes that served our country, and they're dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder and need treatment for such. And we honor them for being the heroes,
as we should,
that have lived through this for us, right? Now, I'm not dismissing anything that's going on in combat, but what I'm saying is that on a physiological level, the feeling of trauma within the body for a child is similar to trauma from losing a mother, to trauma from seeing horrific things overseas, to trauma that was from a sexually abusive relationship. If it's locked up, it has the same physiological effects on the body in terms of kicking adrenaline up, rapid heart rate, making you feel uneasy, uncomfortable. Those are the, kind of some of the warning signs, right? And so what I'm trying to say is, if you are still here and breathing, and you are surviving that, and you are getting past that, and you're a voice for people suffering from that, you're a fucking hero too. So I'm not saying the people who defend our country are less heroes. I'm just saying, let's broaden that. These are people who've lived through terrible circumstances, and mental illness is at the forefront of those circumstances. And I want to say, I have multiple diagnoses of mental illness, and I am fucking proud of it.
Yeah.
And I don't give a fuck who knows about it, because you know what, man? I'm here to share, and that's it.
And to go further with what Dave was talking about, we were talking about this together earlier on. This shit touches everyone, not just the immediate victim. And one of the ways I know that is the response we've had. Look, this is truly Navarro and myself getting on a phone and calling people. And then we elicit Rick Canny to call the business people. And to a fault, other than scheduling conflicts, every single person has gone, absolutely, my wife suffers from this. My cousin died from this. Our next door neighbors are people all across the board are touched by mental health issues. John Wiseman, who is over at PRG, right? PRG are a massive lighting and production organization. And he stepped up, donating shit, cutting bills in half. I mean, you know, the reaction from, I've never met this guy, but I know that when Rick Canny called him, he's like, absolutely, I love what Dave and Billy are trying to do. And it's not just the artists, you know, all the business types. We've got a group of lawyers called Law Rocks, group of lawyers who are philanthropically inclined. And Ted over at Law Rocks has stepped up, donated money, donated time, donated services. And then, of course, we call all the rock stars. And the rock stars are like, yeah, man, what a great idea.
Not only that, but then we hit them with what we're doing on stage, and it's a slam dunk. Because then they go, yeah, of course I want to be in. What are you doing? Well, we're doing the first Iggy and the Stooges album, and we're doing Ziggy Stardust. And they're like, if they can do it, they're in.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't love those records?
Yeah, those are iconic records, and everybody learned how to play on by trying to copy that stuff early on. So the event is next week. It's the 16th. It's Monday at the Fonda Theater. All of the proceeds go to
Music
Cares, which is
I did try to get that to say a portion of the proceeds goes to Music Cares, but they weren't going for it.
Everywhere, Golden Voice, the Fonda, center staging. So look, you have to understand that we have, I believe, 39 musicians. Oh God, Dave, what are we doing?
I don't know, man. I'm just going to Uber up on the night and play.
Yeah. No rehearsal for you, right?
No.
So,
I'm not going to be milling about backstage all day.
Hell no.
No way.
Hell no. There's 39 musicians. There's backup singers. There's a full production setup of immense proportions. You can't take that to your garage and rehearse it. So center staging, they stepped up. They donated all the time, all the backline, all the cartage. And we're the business people, from the Fonda, Golden Boy, center staging, PRG, everyone involved, enabled two ex-junkie reprobates to go, I know what I want to do. Here's a good idea. Let's play Ziggy with a bunch of rock stars and donate all the money. The business people really are making this happen.
Wait. That is true. All those things he said are true, but you got to back up. Retrobates? What the fuck?
It's one of them English words.
What does it mean, though?
It means
the Queen's English.
It means a less desirable person.
Retrobates.
Sounds like a great name for a punk band.
That is our band. Side band. The Retrobates.
I like it. We're in.
The bloody Retrobates.
No, serious thanks.
What kind of English is that?
It's the Queen's.
Is it the Queen's English, or is it that?
No, it's proper English.
That street slang that you picked up over there.
That I tend to throw out now and again.
Cockney street slang you picked up, you derelict.
This is the man I have to work with and put this gig together.
Can you believe how lucky he is? What a joy.
You guys live a life.
What a joy this must be for him.
So this is year 2. Obviously, you guys have created something insane here, but the jam on that stage is Rock and Roll Hall of Fame-esque size of proportion. So that should be really either a complete disaster or fucking amazing thing, depending on how it comes out.
It can't be a disaster, man. It can't, because we have the best team in place. We have the best crew in place. We have Rick Canny in place. We have Golden Voice in place. We have professional musicians doing a professional job. All want to get this thing done. And man, last year we took on Adam and the Ants and the Kings of Wild Frontier, first album, and we took on Velvet Underground with Nico, which is probably 2 of the most challenging and completely different albums you could ever prepare for. Because
and we killed it.
They are sonically nowhere near each other. And that we had to relearn how to play our instruments and tune things differently. So we get into the fucking nuance of the recordings and learning and just pining over the little parts and the little harmonics and the little pick scratches that you hear that become memorable moments. That's what we focus on. So it becomes so much fun for us, and then the people that come and do it, they're on their game too. Like, that's the beautiful thing. Like,
I've responded to a couple, I'm not going to name names, but a couple of people have said, so this is like, we're going to jam out at the end. I'm like, no, dude. There's no jamming out. This is like, you need to go and learn that song, how it is. We've been very clear. This is an homage to that album. We're not going to wreck it. This is how Ziggy sounds.
And if something goes down and it's not on the docket, so to speak, that's the way life is. What are you going to do? We're still here for the same reason.
Yeah.
God, it sounds like rock and roll.
The reach of this, the show is one thing. The show is local. The reach is global, though. And that's one of the byproducts of putting this cast together of people that are a part of the show, is that it gets picked up in Japan. It gets picked up in Australia. It gets picked up in Italy and France and Germany and the UK.
Are you streaming?
No. The coverage of the event.
Okay.
That's what I mean. There's a photo. You'll see a photo of, Perry and Dave or, performing Suffragette City, or you'll see Jack Black singing, what's Jack doing?
We'll let that be a surprise.
You'll see that. And that benefit.
That, my friend, shall remain
show business. And that benefit, though, is a big side benefit to this show, is that people around the world become aware of what this message is and become aware of the message that we're trying to carry here. And that's propelled us into this year. Last year, this got picked up on a global level, and that really propelled this year and opened a lot of doors for us for this year.
And I will carry on with that, because Dave and I have plans for this, and it depends on how much pickup and support we get from the industry. But I would like to see this thing, and Dave and I would like to see this thing.
Have you ever seen Cats? Have you ever seen Cats, the musical? Of course. That's what we want to turn it into.
It's an off Broadway play.
I'm confused as hell by that.
Dave and I.
So am I.
Dave and I, we've spoken.
I'm not going to invest, but I want to see it.
That's where this is heading. This is where we're ironing out.
West Side Story.
Ironing the kinks out. Yeah, West Side Little White. It's like West Side Story meets
Jets,
Cats.
Sharks, and Cats.
So it's like the Sharks and the Jets
and the Cats
dressed as cats. So that's where we're going with this. Am I right or no?
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we got the 5-year plan, right? Right, guys, we're all on board.
We've got it 3, 5, and 10 year. But one thing I do, if you're living in London and you hear this, or living in Germany, whatever, you want to support it, buy a ticket. Buy a ticket, even though you can't be there. Support this cause. All of the ticket proceeds go to Music Cares.
That's definitely a great point.
And so, just buy a ticket, whether you can be there or not. You want to help us? Do that.
That's great. And I interrupted Billy because we do have plans that are actually, believe it or not, better than the plan that I just suggested.
Better than Cats?
Believe it or not, it's better than West Side Story dressed as cats.
I'm not entirely sure that's true, but go ahead. It might be a close second, but go.
Well, I figure that this is Promoter 101 podcast, and I figure that a lot of people who listen to this are in a position to help us realize that
great
dream.
idea.
And
so, yeah, you want to cut out the Cats part of the interview. That's okay. I didn't realize that the industry.
That's Niederlander.
Industry is listening to this?
No, look, here's the real deal. We have a 5-year plan. We would like to see this thing at the Greek, a Lollapalooza style, festival style, maybe 6 or 7 bands. Each band picks an album that they want to pay homage to. So maybe you'll get the Cult playing the Doors' first album. Maybe you'll get Radiohead playing Frankie Goes to Hollywood's first album. I have no idea. And it culminates with Dave and I doing an All-Star One album thing with all money donated to Music Cares.
And a TV component.
So, yeah, TV, streaming. I mean, that is totally possible. We've taken it in 2 years to something where everyone wants to be involved. Why not push it to a festival level in 5 years?
I mean, that would just be so interesting and fun. And the other thing that's beautiful is that on this event, we have so much support from Dr. Drew, Bob Forrest, like people in the medical field that are supporters of what we're doing and trying to get the message out. So, for instance, at our event on the 16th at the Fonda, Dr. Drew is going to be speaking at the intermission. Bob Forrest is going to be speaking at the intermission. We also, Billy and I are both visual artists, and we've reached out to some of the artists in our community to do live paintings on the street as people are queuing up and watch some art being made to support this event, and then hopefully go up for auction at the end of the thing. So it's really a merging of everything that has given us life. We're trying to give it back to everybody else.
And like Dave says, it crosses the creative boundaries into art, music, acting. I mean, Tom Arnold is hosting the thing. There's actor Juliette Lewis is performing. It's not just music. It's
I'm going to do a little one act from Death of a Salesman, right? Right? You guys know about that?
Dave likes his spoken word.
Willie Loman.
Dave's spoken word is something to behold. It's fantastic.
That starts at 5.
Unspoken word is even more.
Oh, wait a minute. That hurts.
We're canny with the quip.
That's it. No, that was all. I figured this is a good platform to talk about the plans, because I know for a fact people who listen to this can go, you know what, I like these guys, let's make it a reality. And I would love to see, look, it's one thing doing a gig and we're very proud of it and we're going to donate all the money to Music Cares, who are very grateful. But to create a real wave, a real awareness and a real funding for mental health care, I would be honored, and I would love to see Dave and I's energy together, as you can tell, is unique, and I would love to see that energy take it all the way.
What we're looking for is someone to harness the uncontrolled dynamic, the unbridled.
Because I definitely can't.
Harness that energy and work it and make it focused and focus that
Fine-tune.
energy back, fine-tune the energy and shoot it back to the world and say, look at what I've been a part of, lads. I took these two kids off the street.
That's it.
Yeah, and then that would be part of that could be part of whoever's listening, that could be part of your story, is that you took these two lads off the street and bettered their lives, and now look at them go. And I helped make it happen.
I like that.
All right. So if you're industry and you want to help at a bigger level, reach out to Rick Canny. If you don't know how to find him, reach out to the podcast and we'll put you in touch with him.
And and also I agree to anyone who's willing to help us. I'll come to your living room and do Jane Says front to back. You can sing along or I'll sing it for you. And that's pretty much all I know. But, you guys might remember that one. And I'll be happy to bring up some
live karaoke in your own bedroom. That'd be great.
You watch someone call and say, will Dave come to my house?
Just one-on-one. In a room somewhere. Just you and me.
Intimate.
I look right into your eyes the whole time. They have to bring me. It's the most uncomfortable.
3.5 minutes you've ever had.
The most uncomfortable offer. They're like, let's not do that.
All right. So Music Cares, all the money and proceeds go to that. It's this Monday at the Fonda in LA. If you want to give to Music Cares and you're not in LA, of course, you can buy a Promoter 101 t-shirts where all of the money goes also to Music Cares and is matched by Prism. What a great,
Is that
great
right?
charity. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. That's fantastic.
And you know what? I'm going to order one myself because I like hoodies.
Have it in black.
That's all I care about. It comes in goth.
Promoter 101. I can't thank you enough for being here, guys.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you for having us.
So there you have it. Promoter 101's very rare and special look at what Billy and Dave are doing to help the industry themselves, not just financially, but looking out for the souls and hopefully helping keep some of these guys around a lot longer. Their hearts are truly in the right place, and they're on the front lines of this. This is an important topic, and I'm glad we got to address this here on Promoter 101.
And Steiny, as big a fan as I already am of guys like this, it just really makes me an even bigger fan.
We are thrilled to announce that Promoter 101 has teamed up with the Recording Academy's Music Cares Foundation to do a little good. And you, our beloved listeners, can help. By going to Promoter101.net and clicking the merch tab at the top of the page, you can pick up a stylish, limited edition Promoter 101 Call Ya Mother t-shirt or hoodie in a huge variety of styles and colors. 100% of proceeds goes directly to Music Cares and their mission to provide a safety net of critical assistance for music people in their time of need. Shipping and handling is absolutely free, and for the first $10,000 we raise, our good friends at Prism are matching donations dollar for dollar. Go to Promoter101.net right now, click on the merch tab, pick out one of our awesome shirts, and be the heart and soul of the music community by donating to Music Cares. And don't forget to call your mother.
Hey, so you might know, but we've done these t-shirts that we've teamed up with the great folks at the Music Cares Foundation to do a little good. And you, our listeners, can help right now by going to Promoter101.net, clicking on the merch tab at the top of your browser, and picking a stylish Promoter 101 t-shirt or hoodie. For $20, you can get the t-shirt. For $50 donation, you get the hoodie. 100% of the gross goes to Music Cares. It's all in. There's no additional shipping or handling. It's a tax write-off. It's all taken care of. Please buy a shirt and support people who really need it. It's our first, and we're so proud of the swag. It came out so good.
This is so cool. And what's even cooler, Prism will be matching the first $10,000 in donations to Music Cares. So get in on this now. Write to us at Steiny@Promoter101.net. And feel free to tell us what's on your mind.
Hey, we'll be back Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. on the Eastern Seaboard. That's right. That's where New York is, on the Eastern Seaboard.
It's also where Philly is. Join us then when we feature AGI's Dennis Arfa.
Until then, we're wishing you sold-out shows for the week to come. Cheers!
Hey, call your mother.
Herman Sherman, Live Nation Belgium, Promoter 101.